is exactly what we found in the field when we went to ask people from different regions what was the cause of the malnutrition. We found that women said something very different. Their priorities were very different from those of men and of those of health workers. So keep that in mind even as I start, because I'm here to try and remove that heart of mine and my biases to try and give you what I think are the causes of malnutrition in Uganda. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that from the studies that we have done in different parts of the country, on average, over 60% of women seems to have above average knowledge of what needs to be done for them to attain good nutrition for themselves or for their children in those different aspects that I show up there. The question is, if they have this good knowledge, then what makes them not do what they need to be doing? And that's what I'm going to be responding this morning. If I ask most of you, you tell me that it actually relates to where you come from. And the reason in Uganda is because of the diversity from where we come from as relates to food security aspects. If we look, for instance, in areas that are around the Karamoja area, each one of you would start thinking, oh, it's because of climatic reasons, it's because of bad environmental conditions, that's why that area is that side. The one thing I want to remind you is that over 50%, around 50% of children who come from there are not malnourished. Point number two, if you look in areas that we think are very good food security and are good areas, the areas marked green, there are, even within those areas, pockets that actually could be defined as food insecure. Right? So what comes into my mind is that even among the food secure areas, there are pockets of households that are food insecure and vice versa. So what then actually is the cause might not be related too much to the food security. I want to introduce a new concept of disparity. That the disparity in the different regions of this country could and worse quality of care during different times, but accessible in some parts, in some seasons, and also staff are not available. We have just also documented that through the Regional Center for Quality of Health Care. Staff availability seems also to change with the seasonality. When you actually need the most, it happens because you're sick, that is the time when the quality is also the worst. But I also want to address one key issue that I also think is a major issue of nutrition in this country. One is issues to do with gender. And specifically, I want to address the issues of child. Because we've seen that actually women spend a lot of time doing other aspects that don't even relate to household. Because of all that time, I have to take shortcuts in everything. They have learned how to survive. They don't have to make it as fine as it needs to be made fine. She doesn't have to actually be the one feeding the child. She doesn't have to be the one sitting with the child to feed the child. And because of that, then the child does not have to eat food that is fine enough for it, and the child does not get the attention that's special. She asked her, how do you expect me to give this child all the time that the child needs when my time is like this? But it's not just a matter of time, it's also a matter of the kind of work that she has to do. We computed that on average, just to fetch water, she has to walk 2 kilometers journey to that water, coming back with a 20-liter jerry can, which is 20 kilograms. I'm not even counting this one. The lady spends 135 kilocalories walking to the place and 170 with a heavy thing coming back. On average, just one journey, if she needs that. If she does 2 journeys, she spends 150, equivalent of 150 grams of grains. If you compute that per month, it comes to 4.5 kilograms of grain. To you, it sounds very little. But to me, that is 18,000 kilocalories per month, enough for you to lose 2 kilograms of your weight. So you can tell me that is what this woman has to go through. Why would she get malnourished? But that is not the only thing. I have only 5 more minutes. The agenda decisions will change with what they are going to be doing. I can't talk much about this case study. But there's also gender violence that is an issue that we have to live with. It affects child care and it affects marital separation, which is not very clear, which both of them affect nutritional status of the child. Let me also come to another issue about this woman. This woman was 34 years of age when we met her. This was her 7th child. She got her first child when she was 16 years of age. And this was not the end of the journey. It affects our health and our welfare, of course. She said from her 5th child, she could see they were smaller than the other children, which means the weight at birth was compromised. But she knew very well that it was also affecting the care of the other siblings. These studies, by the way, they were published by Brenda, my colleague, and they are available. They apply mainly to northern Uganda. But this woman is a case study that we give everywhere. But it's not only a story, as you heard from Madra, it's a story of 162,000 children in this country who are born with low birth weight. And most of them, unfortunately, are also born of teenage mothers, who are 25% of all girls between 15 and 19 years of age. So around that time, you can see majority of our children are born with malnutrition. This shows the rate of malnutrition with the age of the child. But that's not the end also, because malnutrition also starts cropping up at that particular age between 5 and 23. Let me give you 2 reasons that I think. One, if you look at this graph over the years, this is 1995, the red. The yellow is 2001, and this is 2006, the last 3 PHSs. What you discover is, in this age group of children, the prevalence of diarrhea has been increasing over the time. Diarrhea is known to be one of the main drains of energy and drains of nutrition or nutrients among children. An episode of diarrhea alone is enough for the child to lose a kilogram, between 0.8 to 1 kilogram of weight. Diarrhea also affects their mothers if they also get diarrhea. So the reason is, what is actually the cause of this diarrhea? We have a few suggestions given. But other than diarrhea, I want also to talk of this food that we eat, we give our children. This is a maize-based food. The way this student of mine did this is a food that assumes that if I was to give a child of 9 to 11 months of age enough energy and protein, what happens to the meals of stomach, so that child can know she has to modify it to get that. Our kind of foods is not as easy. So the other factors, traditions, they determine what is food. If I asked my brother here from Kabale what is food, he will tell you what is food. If you ask us from the north what is food, it's different, because our cultures and traditions change what is food. It affects what we eat, not only also what we eat, but even how we eat it. It affects how we feed, breastfeed, when we initiate, how we initiate, all those factors. It affects seeking health behavior, and it affects gender roles, and it affects even when do I marry another wife. So traditions also are some of the factors that are there. So what we have seen is that all these food issues are important, care issues are important, health issues are also important in determining nutrition. But my last question to all of us is what the Prime Minister asked. Are we maybe also the cause of the problem? This is what I want to conclude with. Are you or me also the cause of the problem? Are we emphasizing more on curative rather than preventive aspects of it? This is now self-soul searching. Are we, for instance, focusing more on facility-based rather than going where the woman, where the child is, and actually meeting the needs of our? To most of this is that at the ministry level, at NADS level, we might be having very beautiful policies, very beautiful guidelines, very beautiful meetings and technical working groups. But very little is happening where it needs to happen. Luis, I put you as the chair so that we can rig this. The other reason is, have we compartmentalized ourselves so much? Have we actually just focused too much health? And I don't talk to agriculture. We can see it needs to be all of us. Are we talking too much gender and not talking with health or agriculture? That compartmentalization does not happen at household levels, ladies and gentlemen. It only happens by who pays our salaries. Lastly, have we locked coordination ourselves? We were in the field just a few weeks ago, and this is something that we need actually to discuss. Because you could see, even at the field level, we have confused them, because when we go there from Kampala, they can tell you guys, you are not coordinated. Thank you very much.